Ahoy folks, Tris here with a quick rumor update, so make sure to take the following with a grain of salt. It was reported earlier this morning from fairly well-known movie insider Daniel Rickman that Illumination has pitched a shared cinematic universe to Nintendo. This would include multiple spin-offs, culminating in an eventual Super Smash Bros. Movie, bringing them all together like the Avengers with the MCU. Now, of course, on one hand, this sounds like an obvious way for Nintendo to make money in the movie industry. On the other hand, many are doubtful of this report. It's ultimately still a rumor, after all. However, it's worth noting that Daniel Rickman has gotten a lot right in the past, including pretty much the entirety of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So, if this is right, then let's take a moment to entertain the idea a bit, and get into some thoughts and speculation. Cause right now, obviously, we have the Mario movie, and we have the live-action Zelda movie with Sony. Those are the only two movies that we publicly know about, at least. You know, there's tons of rumors and reports about potentially others, but ultimately, those are the only ones we actively know about. We don't even know for sure we're getting a Mario movie sequel. We all assume, and we're all certain we will, but officially, there's been no word on that yet. So what does this pitch mean otherwise? Well, first off, this probably implies we're going to see a Zelda movie by Illumination as well. So an animated Zelda movie on top of the live-action Zelda movie. Which is kind of interesting, and they'll have to do a lot to set those apart. Probably using the Toon Link or Wind Waker art style for Illuminations at least. It's probably the easiest for them to work with and most expressive they could work with. But that just covers Mario and Zelda. You can't pitch a Smash movie with just those two after all. So what other IPs could this involve? Of course, obviously, Mario, the Mario movie also encompasses like Donkey Kong and Yoshi, so there's actually a lot that comes from Mario specifically already. But if this pitch was for multiple spin-offs and other movies to eventually culminate into Smash, just how many movies are we talking about here? Because I would imagine that's at least 5 movies, and specifically beyond a sequel to the Mario movie. So you have at least an additional Mario movie, so at least a third Mario movie probably, a Zelda movie, and then probably at least 3 other IPs that haven't had movies yet. So what would those be, if it's all going to come together for Smash? First thing that comes to mind is probably Kirby, honestly. Kirby's usually pretty big in Smash. He's usually kind of depicted as the protagonist. So Kirby as... they say spin-off. I'm not really sure what that means in the context of movies. Would it be a full-on movie? Would it be a show by them instead? I'm not really sure. Or maybe it just wouldn't be a whole movie series. It would just be like a standalone film. Maybe that's what these mean. But I think Kirby would be, maybe not first in line, but one of the biggest ones they would still do. Because Kirby has a pretty big presence in Smash most of the time. Metroid also comes to mind, especially with its resurgence in recent years, with Metroid Dread, Prime Remastered, and the eventual Metroid Prime 4. Metroid's gotten pretty big again, and it's clear Nintendo wants to do a lot with it. But I don't know how I feel about Illumination doing a Metroid movie. That seems like it would have to be on the more serious side, even more than a Zelda movie would, and I would be very curious how they would handle something like that. It's possible that their parent company, Universal, could handle some of these. So maybe not Illumination directly, but some of the other studios owned by Universal. That could be kind of interesting to see. So it's not all specifically on Illumination in that case, but maybe more studios getting a piece of the pie for Nintendo movies, so to say. But Metroid is one that I think would have to happen before a Smash movie, but might be difficult with specifically Illumination. Otherwise, Star Fox is one that I could see happening, but obviously the status of Star Fox as an IP with Nintendo right now is very shaky at best, I suppose. Yes, you could do a movie recapping Star Fox 64 and continuing the meme that we only ever get Star Fox 64 told to us in games and media, but I think Star Fox is probably one of the series that they'd, like Metroid, be able to do to kind of sell this universal story, haha, no pun intended, a story that takes place in more than just one world and different dimensions and whatnot. Like we already have the Mario movie. You could probably sell that kind of well with Star Fox and Metroid, being space stories and different kind of space stories. The other obvious IP that comes to mind is Pokemon. But given how Pokemon usually handles things very differently, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually completely misses out. I don't think this would conflict with like the Detective Pikachu movie, for example, but the Pokemon IP as a whole tends to handle itself very differently, like with all of its anime and many different kinds of movies. So I kind of wouldn't be surprised if Pokemon was completely left out of this, but it would be nice to get a completely different kind of animated Pokemon movie to tie into all this. The last of the big IPs I think worth mentioning here right now is actually Splatoon, because that's clearly become a really big major IP for Nintendo. And yeah, it's the newest out of all these in terms of being represented in something like Smash, but it's clearly one of their core IPs, and I think they would want to incorporate that. So some sort of Splatoon movie would have to happen as well, and that would be kind of huge, I think. All of these would be pretty big, but I get this feeling a Splatoon movie might be bigger, especially with kids, over like Star Fox and Metroid. So that would definitely be exciting at the very least. Of course, it's also worth mentioning, the Mario movie specifically confirms the existence of some IPs, specifically as games, in that universe. So, how would they bring those characters to life in that world if they're going to be in Smash? Like, Mario plays Kid Icarus in the movie. I don't think that means he's going to be encountering Pit, or Chris Pratt's going to have a very awkward conversation with whoever voices Pit, going, "Wow, I played your video game." So, I kind of don't think we're going to see Kid Icarus or F-Zero represented here, because Mario's bedroom in the movie kind of implies they exist as video games. So assuming, we have this big spread of IPs and, they do these different spin-offs and culminate to a Smash movie, who would be in this Smash movie in the first place? Like, who would be the big players? Obviously, you'd have a bunch of cameos. You have probably a bunch of characters from the different movies, have at least one scene. Toad's probably going to be in a few scenes, for example, but I don't think Toad would be one of the, the main fighters. So who would be the big players? Well, from the Mario series, or Mario movies, you'd have Mario, Luigi, you'd probably have Peach in there, you'd definitely have Donkey Kong, and probably Bowser too. Depending on how the inevitable sequel goes, we'll probably get Yoshi. That's already 6 characters, just from one, which is kind of big. If there is going to be an animated Zelda, you'd probably get Link and Zelda. Getting Ganondorf as well would be nice, just so there's more villains, but obviously this depends on what kind of plot the movie's going to have, and what the villains are going to be. Like, are we going to get, like, Bowser and Ganondorf and more villains teaming up? Is it going to be some cosmic, separate villain from everything else that even Bowser and Ganondorf work together with the heroes to stop? Hard to say. Back to characters, though. Obviously, Kirby. Obviously, Kirby's going to be there. Maybe with Meta Knight and King Dedede. But for this first thing, I can kind of see just Kirby alone. Maybe Kirby just falls in, like, a portal and ends up where he needs to be, and it's just Kirby alone with these other characters. And Samus, kind of the only character from Metroid I would see them bringing into this. Yes, Ridley's part of Smash Ultimate, but I don't think, outside of maybe, like, a fight, Ridley would play a big role. I think it would just be Samus. If Star Fox is part of it, I think Fox would kind of be the main player, the leader of Star Fox, obviously. The other crew would probably be there and mentioned and on, like, comms every now and then, but Fox would probably be the main character there representing that IP. If Pokemon really is involved, obviously there'd be a Pikachu. I would be so incredibly shocked if there wasn't a Pikachu. But there'd probably also be some Pokemon trainer. I don't think it'd be a bunch of wild Pokemon acting on their own. There'd probably be some sort of trainer that has all the Pokemon that would be involved. And then, of course, since I mentioned Splatoon as well, you'd have 2 Inklings. Depends on what kind of story they would make for a Splatoon movie, but you'd probably have 2 Inklings working together. 2 different colored Inklings, specifically. And I don't know how well they would do in the fight of everything, but I think that's how they would choose to represent that. Again, in some sort of big subspace emissary sort of plot that brings them all together. Or heck, even World of Light, like Smash Ultimate, you just make it more cinematic. some sort of cosmic entity or multiversal entity, I don't know, something that is so threatening, it's bringing these worlds and dimensions and whatnot together, that everyone has to work together to stop. This is kind of how they would do it. If this would be Nintendo and Illumination's answer to the Avengers in the MCU, you gotta have the characters team up, and presumably they don't all have to know each other beforehand. They don't all have to get along right away. I'm immediately thinking of like the scenes in Subspace where Mario and Link fight each other. Like, this would have a lot of the meat for the first time, and I think with the way the Mario movie kind of established how Mario gets from Brooklyn to the Mushroom Kingdom and more like that, there's a lot of like weird worlds and dimensions and things like that happening there. So they'll probably pull something like that for most of this. But I think at this point we've kind of rambled enough here. The very idea of a Smash Bros. Movie is daunting, to say the least, as it brings a lot of questions with it, obviously. So if this report is real, then it's probably still going to be a very long time before we really see the result of this pitch come to fruition. Because ultimately, haha, it's still a rumor. So it is entirely possible that this won't happen at all. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think we'll see a Smash movie after all? And what do you think it would be about? And who would be the big players in it? Let us know your thoughts down below, and stay tuned to GameXplain for plenty more on Nintendo and other things gaming as well, of course. Until next time, farewell.